Have you ever been at your lowest, with no one to turn to? Have you ever felt invisible in a crowd full of people? One woman knew that feeling all too well, until one moment changed her life. A simple act done by a stranger gave her hope again. This is the story of how kindness can appear when you least expect it. The grocery store was always busy on Friday evenings. Families shopped together, kids laughed, carts rattled along the aisles. But among all the noise and chatter, there was a woman who walked slowly, quietly, almost trying not to be noticed. Her name was Maria. Maria wasn't always like this. She used to be full of life, cheerful and hopeful about the future. But life has a way of testing even the strongest souls. She had lost her husband to illness 2 years earlier, and since then, she had been raising her little daughter, Sophie, all on her own. Money was always tight, bills piled up on the kitchen counter, and her paycheck from working long shifts at a small diner was barely enough to keep them afloat. That Friday evening, Maria came to the store with just one thought: buy the essentials and nothing extra. She walked past the bakery section where the sweet smell of fresh bread filled the air, but she didn't stop. She passed by the aisle with toys where Sophie tugged her hand, pointing at a small doll on the shelf. Maria smiled gently, shook her head, and whispered, "Maybe next time, honey." Her cart was small, just a loaf of bread, some milk, a few vegetables, and pasta. As she walked, she tried to calculate in her head how much it would cost. She had exactly $20 in her wallet, no more. Maria was used to this kind of math. She had mastered the skill of stretching every penny. But inside, it broke her heart. She wanted so badly to give Sophie more, to give her a life filled with joy instead of constant, maybe next times. As they reached the checkout line, Maria felt a mix of relief and fear. Relief that the shopping trip was almost over. Fear that maybe she had miscalculated. She watched other people around her. Carts filled with snacks, treats, extra things she could only dream of buying. Nobody looked her way. Nobody noticed the tired eyes of a young mother just trying to get by. Maria held Sophie's hand tightly, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "We'll be okay." Mama promises. But deep inside, she wasn't so sure. The cashier started scanning her items. One by one, the total climbed higher. Maria's heart raced. $22.45, the cashier finally said. Maria froze. She had $20. That was it. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she dug through her wallet again, as if somehow an extra $2 would magically appear. She could feel the people in line behind her staring. Some sighed impatiently. One woman tapped her foot loudly. "I'm sorry," Maria said softly. "Can you please take the pasta off?" The cashier removed it, rescanned, and the total dropped. But still, it wasn't enough. Maria swallowed hard, trying to stay calm. "Maybe, take the bread off too," she whispered. Her daughter tugged her sleeve. "Mama, I'm hungry." Maria felt tears stinging her eyes. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run away. Instead, she stood there, trying to hold her dignity while strangers behind her grew restless. "Some people really shouldn't shop if they can't afford it," a man muttered under his breath. Those words cut deep. Maria lowered her head, wishing she could disappear. She had never felt so small, so invisible, and so humiliated all at once. Her hands shook as she tried to figure out what else to put back. Each item felt like a sacrifice. Milk meant breakfast for Sophie. Bread meant sandwiches for the weekend. Vegetables meant at least one healthy meal. What could she afford to lose? Her daughter looked up at her with wide, innocent eyes. "It's okay, Mama," Sophie said softly, as if she understood more than a child should. Maria could barely breathe. The world felt heavy, cruel, and cold. Nobody cared. Nobody understood. She was just another struggling mother trying to survive in silence. The cashier cleared her throat, waiting. The line grew restless. Maria felt the weight of judgment pressing on her shoulders. And that's when it happened. Just as Maria opened her mouth to apologize again, a gentle voice spoke from behind her. "I'll cover it," the voice said. Maria turned, surprised. A man stood there, tall, with kind eyes, holding nothing but a small basket of groceries. He smiled softly, already pulling out his wallet. "No, I can't let you—" Maria began, her voice trembling. But the man simply shook his head. It's all right. Please, let me. Before Maria could say another word, he handed the cashier a bill, enough to cover her total and his own. The cashier's attitude softened, and the impatient sighs from behind seemed to fade. Maria felt tears roll down her cheeks. She whispered, "Thank you. Thank you so much." The man just smiled again. "Take care of your little one. That's what matters most." And then, just as quickly as he appeared, he was gone. Maria looked around, trying to spot him, to ask his name, to at least thank him properly. But he had already disappeared into the crowd of shoppers. She stood there, stunned, holding her receipt and her groceries. Sophie tugged her hand, smiling. "See, Mama? I told you we'd be okay." Maria hugged her daughter tightly. For the first time in a long time, her heart felt lighter. It wasn't just about the groceries. It was about being seen, about being reminded that kindness still existed in the world. That night, as Maria prepared dinner, she thought about the stranger. She never knew his name, never got to thank him, but she knew she would never forget him, because sometimes the smallest acts of kindness leave the biggest marks on our hearts. Kindness costs nothing, but to someone, it can mean everything. That stranger may never know how deeply he touched Maria's life. We all have the power to make someone's burden lighter. Even in small ways, the world can feel cold. But one act of kindness can warm it again. Be that stranger. Because your kindness might be someone's miracle.